All right, it's 7:05 by my clock. I think we've given them the 5 minute leeway to get in here, and we'll go ahead and get started. I want to say welcome. Welcome to April. April is kind of like officially the beginning of bee season, so to speak. I guess that the one question I have is I see so many familiar names and faces I recognize. Is anybody new? If you are, just give a shout out. Also, just a reminder, as always, if you hover over your window of Zoom, you'll see a menu bar pop up. You can look at the chat at the bottom and type things in chat if you can't talk. I know sometimes people are on their phone and things like that, and we can see everything. Today, we're going to just check in with anybody that installed some packages. I know some of them came north and a bunch of people installed them this week. We'll talk about spring guidance. It's that time to get ready. We'll talk about adding your honey boxes. We'll go back over a little bit of swarm management. And I guess we'll then just do roundtable and check with everybody to see how everybody's doing. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them. That being said, if you have anything you want to chat about, just throw something in chat so I have a heads up about it. And I'll open up with anybody have any burning questions at the moment. Any problems is really kind of what I'm looking for. Let's start with that. Denise?
Yeah, so I've got a bit of an issue. I did an inspection on March 21st on a nice day. And my one hive was actually, I want to talk about this too. It was very weird. I found the queen and three bees in one hive, and that's it. And one of the bees was like pulling the queen by its leg. So
Oh,
obviously that is not normal. So any ideas how it was just down to four bees and the queen was still one of them?
yeah. That's like a 1 in a million shot of seeing the last
Yeah.
messages of I don't typically what happens, and this is from the research, they say that they physically take care of the queen till the
Until
bitter
the end. Yeah.
and everybody perishes. But usually what happens is the queen will go south because she'll die from exposure when they get to be 45 degrees or below. And obviously last night they couldn't stay warm. But the funny thing is that if they can just hold on till daytime, then they're functional. But she's got no way to feed. And what did you do with her?
I let her die. I couldn't pinch her. I don't know, but she wasn't going to make
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I don't know. What should I have done? I don't think there's anything.
There's really not much you can do. You thank her for
I
her
mean, I need a
service.
queen at the moment as we get to what but I don't think she would have worked. So I don't know.
No, yeah, it's funny. Weren't we talking this week, right? For you,
Yes.
I
Yeah.
would have put her in there.
Well, I didn't know. So
Yeah,
the
there's
other
probably
hive,
nothing wrong with her other than her brother and just
I
went
liked
south.
her genetics too. Like that hive was so calm, produced so much
Well,
honey, was great. So, okay.
get
That's
up
that.
and go get her.
She's gone now.
No, I don't know. This is a funny thing to say, but if you ever face that situation, one thing you can do is take the queen and put her in alcohol
Okay.
and keep her, and she becomes a lure, a pheromone lure. And there are times when you have a queenless colony and you want to use her, you can use her in that way.
Okay.
Put her
That's
inside the hive, and it's weird, I know, but
Well, the other hive I went in was bursting at the seams. There was more bees in
yeah.
the hive than I've seen even last year when my hives were at their fullest. It was crazy. Drones everywhere, drone comb everywhere. And I was going out of town for about a week and a half. So panicked, being this is going into my first full season of beekeeping. And I went ahead and did a split just because I was nervous going away and seeing all that. Wasn't able to get back in the hives for 2 weeks, went back in and found the queen and what did not see her, but saw eggs, larvae, all the things.
Okay.
When I did the original split, I made sure both hives had eggs and larvae available, so both had the opportunity to make a queen. When I went back in 2 weeks later, the other hive had not made any queen cells. There was no starts, no remnants, nothing. Emailed you. You said, go ahead, put another frame in, which I did. So I put in another frame. The bees were a little bit testy that day, but okay. I just went
Mhm.
out before this class, and that was on Saturday. So today being Wednesday, I wanted to see what was going on just in case nothing was happening and be able to report. Just went out there. I have never seen the bees that angry. They got up in my veil. I'm all stung
Oh
in my
yeah.
scalp.
When
Like
they're queenless, they can be really
it was crazy. They followed me
unhappy.
in my house, like the whole thing.
Yeah.
But again, gave them eggs and larvae, haven't done a thing with it. There's a ton, not a ton, but there's capped drone brood throughout, but not sporadic, like in clusters. And then, of course, the frame I moved over with eggs and larvae is capped. And I actually moved over two frames, so both of those. But now I'm at a loss of kind of what to do and why they're not making a queen. I just checked because just to make sure I did go through quite a few frames just to see if I saw eggs and something weird was happening, but there's definitely no queen. And as mean as they were, I mean, for sure, I think that also solidifies it. But
Yeah.
I don't know why they're not creating one.
It's early in the season still. It's not usually, we say the forsythia is the indicator now that all the trees are up. It's usually the week and a half after that happens that they get the sense that resources are coming in the door. Let's make a queen and swarm and do all of those things. When they're not in that mode yet, they may or may not make a queen, even though they really need one.
Yeah,
They won't be happy about what you did to them, as you learned. I
no.
made splits early in the season just to test it a number of years ago. I wanted to know because you see all the people on Facebook, they're splitting like, oh, I have this humongous colony coming out. I want to split it and I want to get ahead of it and whatever. My history with that after a couple years of trying it is if you beat the forsythia or right in that time frame and you make a split, they don't seem to take. They don't. It's too early. You really want to see an abundance of bees and an abundance of food and nectar and all of that. And I think somehow, speculation on my part, it's more about nectar coming in, and there's not a lot of nectar coming in yet. It's just
Okay.
not there. And without the nectar coming in, they won't develop the glands that are required, the hypopharyngeal gland, the mandibular gland, and all of that. They're just not live at 5 yet, and therefore they can't create the brood food and the rich royal jelly that they need to make queens. Again,
Okay.
speculation on my part. One thing that you can do if life is just not heading in the right direction there is recombine them. Put them back
Okay.
on top with a newspaper method. Let them get a little further in the season, and then when you get to that stage, split them again. They won't know the difference. So, or you could wait
And
a
they'll
couple
need the
weeks.
newspaper even though they were originally the same
Yeah, yeah,
colony. Okay.
yeah. When they're apart from each other, there's none of the queen pheromone coming through the colony population, and you
Okay.
really do want them to get reacquainted again. So I would just take a sheet or two, put them in between the boxes, and put a little slit. No, I say newspaper. Who
Okay.
reads newspaper anymore? You can't even get a
Go
newspaper.
find one
So
somewhere.
find something to
Yeah.
use, a paper bag or something like that.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Good luck with that. It's good
Lesson
that you
learned.
shared your experience because everybody here got to hear it. And
Yeah.
I still believe that you put in what we exchanged emails so everybody knows. And I said, take a frame out of the other hive, which was booming, and put it in. And if they have brood in all stages, especially eggs that are going to convert to larva day one, then that's resource to build a queen. Doesn't necessarily mean they'll build one, as you heard, but usually that corrects the problem. Um, I would not go buy a queen though. I don't think it's a good time for that yet. So,
Okay.
all right, let me talk about a couple things and then we'll do a little roundtable. The first thing I want to say is One of the questions you might ask yourself if you're a beekeeper already is when do you put your honey boxes on? So I'm curious, when do you plan to put your honey boxes on? We're in the first week of April. Do you have a plan? In the chat, next week, 2 weeks, you already put them on. They've been on since last year. I'm curious to see what everybody's state is, what you think of that answer. And by the way, I'm not omniscient and know the perfect answer. So, okay. When the tulip poplar blooms.
What do you mean? You have the bottom box when to put on a top box?
If you have bees in the box coming out of winter, when do you put your honey supers on?
Oh.
This supposes that you're already a beekeeper. Some of you aren't, so that this
I'm
question's
trying.
relevant.
I'm trying to be a beekeeper, but I'll wait till it's my turn. But I didn't have my two hives did not survive.
Okay.
So
Okay, so you putting supers on tomorrow. Where are you, Gordon? Where are you located? Forget. Are you in Maryland?
Northern Indiana.
Indiana. Okay, so you're kind of the same latitude as us.
Yeah, just a little bit further north other than you.
I
I'm
like
surprised.
Sheila's answer.
Yeah.
Okay, so you see the answer is it depends. And that's a really kind of good answer. The answer is it depends on your situation. Beekeeping is local. I said in the outset that one of the main indicators is when there's a lot of food coming in. When you do your first inspections of the year and you see that the frames are flush with nectar, you know that they're bringing it in. And what I mean by that, for anybody that's new, when you go in and you pull the frame up and you read the brood pattern, you'll see a large dedicated component of the face of the frame dedicated to bees being reared, developed. And around that is food. And in the corners, up in the top, is typically food. And when you have it stuffed full on a brood frame, that's good news. That means it's coming in spades because they're going to want to feed the bees. When they have that much coming in that the brood frame is fully stocked, they're going to need extra space. I think typically, and we were just talking about swarm season, when the bees are very crowded and they need more space, when the temperatures get consistently above 45 degrees, when there's white wax, which is an indicator that you have new fresh bees that are of age, that their wax glands are activated. And for that to happen, there has to be nectar coming in the door. All of these things are precursors to you better put your honey supers on or your bees are going to be swarming out. I think I'm going to get a read. Now, I don't know how everybody else is yet. I've only peaked in my beehives. It's been too cold. It was 30, I want to say 28 as a low last night with a high of 40 something yesterday. Just barely made it to 45 or 50. Now, this weekend, it's going to be 70. And I see for the stretch foreseeable that it's going to be in the 60s and 70s with a high above 45. Unless you had a massively booming colony coming out of winter, they're probably at medium weight right now and they're game on. They've been through maybe one or two iterations of brood development, and they should be a 2 or a 3 on the frame. And what I mean by that is if I pick up a frame and I look at it, I could divide it into thirds. A 1 is 1/3 of the frame is covered. A 2 is 2/3 of the frame is covered. And a 3 is the entire face is covered with bees. If I pick up a frame and it's a 3 on this side and I flip it over and it's a 3 on this side, that frame's a 3. Right now, most of your bees coming out of winter, if they were in decent shape, should be a 2, maybe a 3 on some of the frames, especially in the middle of the brood nest. Now, if you go in the bottom box, if you run 2 deeps or 3 mediums, that box may not have a lot of bees in it. and there's still room to grow. This is where the traditional thought is you would switch the bees, put the really stacked box down at the entrance so that they can have efficient come and go. And from that standpoint, they also need space to store, and they like to store above themselves. So when you add honey boxes and or do a reversal, you create space above for them to store nectar, and that thwarts swarming. It's a little bit of swarm management. So this week, if you're a beekeeper and you haven't put your honey supers on, you should be going through your stash and getting them ready, or making sure you have frames ready to go. And especially if you're a little further south than us, down in Maryland, down in North Carolina, South Carolina, down there, they're already past all this. But as it works through the Virginias and into Maryland, Delaware, if you're down in that zone, you're really right there right now. We'll be there a week or so behind you. Now, for those of you that are brand new, don't have bees yet, maybe you're going to get bees, maybe you're a lurker and just trying to learn. This is the time of season where you see packages coming north. It's a little early for the typical nucleus producers to be giving out nukes. They usually like to see them grow and be full and drones and all that stuff before they distribute them. It's usually late April, early May, some as late as June, which is not the greatest, but some of you just put packages in. And if not, I know people did get packages this week. A delivery came up in our zone. If you're doing that, make sure you keep the entrance closed. Make sure you keep feeding them nonstop until they grow all the way through. Go look at the lessons. Is there anybody anticipating getting packages? Just give a wave or a nod.
So Kevin,
Couple. Yeah.
so you just mentioned that switching the box, and can you do we need to switch the box and add a super, or add a super will be sufficient?
So the switch to the box is a preemptive way to increase the space above them, which
Okay.
would be a swarm prevention technique. Do you need to do it? You don't, but a lot of beekeepers like to be proactive and they'll do it. If you don't do it, the bees will build down. But it is more crowded for them because they'll build all around themselves. And then when they run out of room, they'll build down. When you switch the boxes, all the resources that they currently have go down in the bottom, and the top is free, and it gives more, I don't know, it's a little less friction for them. Adding honey supers when the box is full of bees gives a place for bees to go. The sleeping bees go up and sleep in the honey supers. They walk on the honey supers. They walk on the wax. They keep warmth up there. They store whatever nectar they have, and so on. So as the trees are in full bloom and all the plants are just going crazy, when you start to see the trees leaf up and bud, you should really have your honey supers on. Especially when some of the, like somebody said, tulip poplar, some of the trees that supply a lot of nectar early in the season are ones that, you know, you definitely want to have your honey supers on prior to that.
We actually saw the pollen months ago already. So the bees coming in. We're right around where you are in New Jersey, and but the weather's been fluctuating so much, and then I noticed that I couldn't see any flowers, and looked really carefully. Finally, saw some elm tree actually
Mhm.
flowers right way up there. The bees found them. So we didn't. If you're not careful looking, we didn't see the flowers. This is about a month ago, but they were already there.
Yeah. Yeah, they're kind of scarce, but then all of a sudden you drive around in the neighborhood and oh, there's a cherry tree, there's a cherry tree, there's a tree. And then you see flowers on the trees. Cherry trees are usually the one of the first ones, but I could look out the window of my front door and see 10 cherry trees surrounding me that are in full bloom already. So you will see pollen come in all year long. It's crazy, but they'll find pollen from last season and bring it in. So I don't think typically in the mid-Atlantic, New England, and even south, finding pollen in this region is not a challenge, which is good because that means they need that pollen to build brood. Drones between boxes, Sheila. Where are you, Sheila?
Manchester Township, New Jersey.
Okay, you're in New Jersey. Yeah. So you got a banger. You got a hive that's already going. If you guys are seeing, and I see the comments, if you have white wax and you have drones in between and they're emerged, then they're right on schedule or ahead of schedule. Typically, you'll see that for some of you who have insulated your boxes
Mhm.
or done some of that work. The fluctuation of temperature up, down, up, down, up, down, 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 up, 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 down, up, down, up. The roller coaster, right? That's what we see in the spring. If you have a box that's insulated, the temperature swings don't lend to I shouldn't be doing this, which is what the bees are doing, right? I shouldn't be doing this. It's a little more stable, and with stability, they'll build a little faster.
Did we remove the insulation too early? We removed it a couple weeks ago when it was so warm. We
Yeah,
removed the insulation, but we kept the
that's
top
that's
insulation
kind of
on.
a personal preference thing. We talked about that in the last meeting. I like to wait until the first big inspection of the year. But if you're going to inspect and take the hive apart, are you going to take it and put it back? Now, one thing I'll say to everybody in this program, we like to have 2 inches of foam insulation over the inner cover on the hives all year long.
Yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah. So
On
that,
on the top, but we had Bee Cozy, right? So my husband had to
yeah.
remove the Bee Cozy in order to inspect. So he removed it about a couple of weeks ago, and it got so cold this last week.
Yeah. And th so you kind of look outside and you go, I don't know if I should have removed it. But the other thing to think about is at this point of the year, usually if they're a healthy, thriving colony, they've developed enough bees that they can get through the cold. If you'd have taken it off in February early and they were still coming out of winter and they hadn't built enough population to maintain the temperature of the brood nest, there are times, I've been through years, where we sit where we are today, April 8th, and a cold swing comes through and it stays cold all the way through the middle of April. And if the bees had a good time in the end of March and started to build up, and then the cold comes and they have to retract, one, that's stressful. And two, you're going to see that they've maybe built brood to the outside of the nest and then contracted and abandoned it, and you'll find dead bees, dead brood in progress. Shouldn't see that this year, but just keep in mind that that's what happens with temperature swings. And in that case, you would probably want to leave the insulation on when you're looking at forecasts that are going to stay colder through March and April.
We
So
had
that
our
would probably
first
be okay.
warm last year in April 17. I remember
Yeah.
the date. Yeah, it was
Tax day, April
right.
15th. Yeah. Sam, you got a package at the end of this month. Are you ready to go? Got all your equipment ready, right? We've talked about that.
Most of it's ready. I'm putting up the bear fence hopefully this weekend.
Okay. Any questions about the install instructions?
The only thing I was wondering was the ground within the fence where the bees are going to be. We're going to be clearing out an area of like brush that it's going to be sitting in. Is there anything as far as what to do with the ground? Do you like just plant like ground cover, like low ground cover, or just constantly go back in there and clear it out?
That's kind of your personal preference. Some people like grass, some people put mulch.
Okay.
What I would say to you, and I think we've talked about this, is I like to put a mat,
Hmm.
floor mat underneath the hive so that the grass doesn't grow up right underneath the hive. And
Okay.
then you either have grass or some sort of ground covering. It doesn't matter. as long as if you do plant grass, make sure you can get in there with a mower or a weed whacker or something.
Okay. Thank you.
So if you cover the around, will it reduce the hive beetle? 'Cause they won't deposit eggs for the winter.
Hive beetles will crawl beyond your cover if they have to. They can crawl very far. We generally don't have a problem with hive beetles in this area, in the northern region, because the ground gets so cold and freezes that it kills all the larvae. So anything that's in the ground, unless we have a gentle winter, is probably dead. What we'll see later as spring progresses to summer and all of the fruits that attract them up, they'll good flyers, they'll fly into our zone. So, how do you pick up your package, Sam?
The package I think is getting delivered to the post office, and then we were picking up some of the like nuke netting that we could put on top of it for the travel, and the post office is 1 minute from my house.
Okay. Yeah, typically a package, if they have it in storage, won't have any stray bees, but your nuke, when you put it in your vehicle, will probably be good to put a net around it. So
Yeah,
you
I'm gonna
have
have to
that
because I think I
supply.
have a 45 to 50 minute drive with that nuke.
Yeah.
We
Just
did
make
an
sure you
hour
keep it in
drive with the
fresh
first
air.
one we got, and it wasn't plugged, and it was like one of those Final Destination movies. And we weren't beekeepers yet, so it actually turned out good because we had an hour drive. They were everywhere, and we learned very quickly if you're just still and calm, they leave you alone. So it was good, but it was also
Did they make it to
terrifying.
the windshield?
15 minutes in, I was hysterically crying. My husband's like, "How much did you pay for these? We're just gonna throw them on the side of the road." I
Oh
told him the
no.
number. We kept driving.
Yeah. The typical beekeeper story, you're driving down the road and you're looking in the rearview mirror and they're at the back window and then they're at the side window and then they make it up to the center windows and then they're at your side and then they're flying at the windshield and you're driving down the road like, please don't sting me. Please don't
Yeah.
sting me.
I
If you have a
helped
bee
my
suit,
friend.
you put it on.
I helped my friend Ann, who's usually on this call, but pick up two nukes on Saturday,
Yeah.
and um, we had nuke boxes, but they she had mesh bags, and they were so great to have because there were we couldn't get all the bees in the box. Once it was closed up, there were still a lot of bees hanging around. So those mesh bags are really a great tool to have.
Yeah. And when you go pick up a bee, whether it's a package, surprisingly, or a nuke, a lot of times the bees from the neighborhood smell what's going on and they come in. Your package is sealed. You shouldn't see anything. Now, I don't think you're going to encounter that sound from the post office because it's sitting in the back room. But if you go to somebody who brought a trailer and there's 500 packages sitting on it and you pull the package off, there's probably bees in the neighborhood. Or that guy, gal, person is a beekeeper and there's bees from their hives in the mix and on the boxes, and you'll go, okay, I put a sealed box in the back of my vehicle. Why do I see bees flying? It's because the strays. So Teresa is a good point. Get one of those laundry bags, put the thing in, zip it closed, make sure you have it really tight so that they can't get out and you'll control them. Now, if you do get the situation where the bees are flying inside the car and you're freaking out, pull over, open the doors or roll down the windows, let them fly out because they want to go out to the light, and then close it up and drive a little further. And then if they get out and they're coming back, up towards you, pull over and let the windows down or bring a bee suit. This comes from wisdom. Anytime I go pick up bees, if I've ever doing that or I'm moving bees, I always have a bee suit with me
Right.
and with you. You never know. And I have driven home with nukes in the car and bees all over the place in a bee suit, pulled up to the stoplight and a bee suit person next to me is like, what the heck is going on? And there's all the bees on the window. And I just gave him a wave and zoom, off I went, So bring a bee suit. Be prepared.
Yeah.
It's actually in the lesson if you haven't watched the lesson yet. So
Better Bee has a bee suit that is like packable. That seems like it'd be easier to drive in if you needed to. Like it's a foldable thing, so and you can use like put a ball cap and put it on top of that, so you don't have to have all of this like obstruction of the regular veil.
yeah, one thing to know, everybody, to be clear, bees are not defensive when they're in those. Maybe a nuke because they have to defend their resources, but they're so small they generally are not aggressive. Most of the time you run into encounters of bad bees when they're defending a full-size colony. But comparatively, and your mileage may vary depending on what bees you pick up, a nuke in a package are kittens. You generally are not going to run into troubles with them wanting to like get the driver, you get the passenger ready, go, and you're going to get stung. So I am going to go through my garage this week. I haven't done it yet, and go through all my honey supers. I have 20 something hives, and I have to go through and make sure I have 2 boxes for every hive. I'm also planning to do inventory of my colonies to determine which ones I want to split and how I'm going to split them. And additionally, this week, I am going to go through and pull out any of the comb I don't like. The other day, I pulled a comb out and the entire center of the comb was empty. I don't know what I was thinking when I put that thing in there. Kind of hoping probably they built it and they never did. And it was right in the middle of the brood nest. So shame on me. But any of that wonky or terrible comb, it's a good time to get rid of it. So, any questions?
What do you consider wonky or terrible comb? How terrible does it have to be?
One, I write the date of when I installed the foundation in my frames on top of the frames. And if
Okay.
it's 5 years old, it's got to go. So every year I have a certain subset of frames that get rotated out. And last year at the end of the season, I built, I want to say 70 or 100 frames. They're sitting in the garage ready for foundation to go in them. And I will put those in. Now, every once in a while, you put a frame in and they don't build it out. It remains foundation. You end up pulling it out. I just scratch the number off and write the next year on it and put it back in. So if it's got a ton of drone brood on it, I don't, and drone comb, I'd rather get rid of that. I pull that out. If the comb looks terrible for some reason, every once in a while, maybe you've set the frame too far away from the wooden wall, and they'll build a big glob of wax in a bad place. And when you pull it out, they keep attaching it to the wall. If it's got a malformed glob on it in the center of the frame, I'll get rid of that frame. I'll scrape it off and melt it, give them a new frame. Just anything that I don't particularly like the look of. If they didn't build it out well, if it's got holes in it, like in crazy places, if it's damaged for some reason, which happens sometimes,
Do you do anything to your new frames? Like I think I'm just going to add one new Bach or 10-inch. I have a whole set, and it's. Should I do anything to those frames to make them more amenable to the bees?
If you're putting new frames in, first things first, I don't know where you get your frames from. They should come with a coating of wax on the ribs. Don't drench the frame so that it's filled, including the bottom of the cup. The bottom of the cup, you should see plastic, or you should see the original wax foundation if you're using wax. I would wax frames and make sure that they're really heavy with wax. If you put new frames in, put them in near the brood nest and let them build it out. And then as the season goes, take the frames that are built and put them to the outside and bring the ones that are not built into the inside. Just keep rotating the new comb in closer to the brood nest. They'll build it faster for you. One other thing to say, at this time of year when they're not making wax, they have no wax, and you put those frames in, some bees will go to the outer frames and chew all the wax off the coating and use it to do capping and other things because they don't have enough bees to make wax. And then they're reluctant to draw those frames out. So as your season progresses, especially if you're brand new and you put bees on foundation, wax foundation, not usually a problem. Wax has a different problem. They'll chew holes in the wax foundation and bring it in, and then they have to go back and build comb. And in the hole, sometimes they build wonky, crazy comb. Or most times they get it really well because wax is, by that time of the season, they're making lots of wax and they're good to go. There's a research paper out there, it's been out for a couple of years now, where somebody took rolls of foundation, rolled it up, and tucked it around the frame. Has anybody seen this? You take a foundation roll without wires in it, or you pull the wires out, and you roll it up like a cigar, and then you take it and you press it long ways along the bottom of the bar and along the side bars on your foundation. And the bees will chew that excess wax off and use that instead of cleaning the face off. And apparently it's quite successful. I've seen people say, yeah, this actually works very well. So that's another possible option. But when you put new frames in, if they don't have wax on them or a lot of wax, you should wax them. And pay attention through the year, like middle of spring. Look at your outer frames. Make sure they still have wax on them, that the bees didn't remove them. And if they do, just rotate them inward as you go through the years to coerce the bees to build them. Sometimes you'll finish your first box, meaning they'll be built all the way through, and they may or may not build the outside of frame 1 and frame 10, or they may not build them at all. And you put another box on and they'll go up and start building above, and they'll ignore those frames to the outside. I want you to follow the lesson plan, which is bring those frames from the outside in and get them to build, because you want 10 frames built if you're running 10 frames. You don't want 8 because you're missing 20% of the landscape that the bees should be using. And that doesn't matter whether you're running mediums or deeps, it's the same thing. And if you're running 8 frames, you want all 8 frames built especially. When you split the hive, the new hive will make a new queen. So Roseanne, the way that that works, and I will talk about a traditional split. A traditional split is often referred to as an artificial swarm. An artificial swarm coerces the colony to believe that it has swarmed. In a traditional swarm, the queen leaves and takes resources with her, meaning contingent of the population. So if you're to do a proper swarm, artificial, you're going to go in your box, find your queen, and you're going to take your queen along with a decent number of resources, and you're going to put them in a separate box, and you're going to take them away somewhere for a period of time. It's going to relieve congestion. It's going to take resources out of the hive and the colony population. It's going to take resources out of the hive and the frames that you took and the food and resources that were on them, and you'd put foundation back in its place. When you perform this operation, you want to look for those signs we started the meeting with. You want to have white wax. You want to have a lot of food coming in the door. You want to have drones present. And when that occurs and they're in mode to swarm in the first place, because nature is providing all they need in order to accomplish the goal, that's the perfect time to do a split. And when you take those resources out and move them out of the hive, there will be brood in all stages, including eggs that are going to convert to larvae of the right age that they can make a queen. When an egg transforms into a larva There is no difference in the 1 day old larva as to whether it can become a worker or whether it can become a queen. The only difference is how it's fed and cared for. If it's to be a queen, it will be abundantly fed, 1,600 visits a day, and it'll be fed a strict diet of royal jelly. If it's a worker, it'll be fed 100 times a day or 200 times a day. It'll be fed royal jelly for the first day or two, and then they switch to feed it nectar and a lot of pollen. The difference in the diet transforms how the bee develops as to whether it's a worker or a queen. And from the perspective of making a split, when you make the split, as long as you left them some material for them to make a queen, they will realize that the queen is no longer present because she's not depositing pheromone throughout the colony. She's not there anymore to do that. And they will hit that impulse to build themselves a new queen. Now, if the queen went around and there were queen cups and she laid in the queen cups, they'll build proper cells. And they might be there already, whether you did the split or not. It just depends on timing.
You were saying earlier that you wouldn't get purchase queens right now. I guess what indicators would you look for before you did go and, make splits and then put queens into the splits?
Yeah, I think the thing about when someone is going to do queen rearing, they usually wait till the height of the season to do it because that's the best time to make queens. It's very rare that somebody in advance of the season, prior to, say, let's talk about April 15th, we've been talking about, is making queens already. And typically they would wait until there's an abundance of drones so that when they make a queen, the queen can go out and get mated. Now, ideally, you would want to buy a queen that is local, one that's coming from a breeder somewhere in your area. Are there queens in California and Florida and Georgia right now? They are. Could you order one? Maybe. Depends on what the availability is. A lot of times when people rear queens down there, they're putting them in packages in the nukes that they're selling to bring up here. And there's not an abundance, but you can find them if you call around. I would say, just me being snobbish, I would prefer to buy a queen from a local provider, something that's local stock around here. And that entails typically waiting until the season is underway before somebody says, I've reared queens and I have them available.
Yeah.
So Kevin, we lost some colony, I think last year or year before, that because it wasn't queen right. We just, it was from a swarm we captured, and somehow the population just kept reducing, and we didn't see brood cell. We see funky brood cell here and they're like drone cells. So they didn't just indicate there was no queen. And then we tried to put some frames from other hives into it. Was a total loss. They eventually didn't survive. And I didn't know about having been able to buy queen from local. But
in the case of what you described, it's rather classic. You put a swarm in the box. This swarm may or may not have had a queen. Chances are, if it's a secondary swarm, tertiary swarm, or whatever, it has a virgin. The virgin could have went out to try and get mated and never made it back. Now you have a swarm with no resources, no brood, and they're going to become drone layers, meaning there's nothing suppressing the workers from converting into a bee that could lay eggs. Queen being present does that. That's why you get that funny pattern. Once you have a worker bee that's converted to worker bees, I should be clear, it's usually a bunch of them. They convert to laying workers, and they kind of are a surrogate for a queen. And if you give a frame of brood, they may or may not have that impulse to want to make queens because somebody's
Okay.
laying eggs in here and it's a downward spiral.
Okay. Yeah,
So
that's what happened to us, basically. Yeah.
that's why a lot of after swarms, the phrase, a swarm in May, a swarm in June ain't worth a silver spoon, a swarm in July isn't worth a fly. Um,
So might
the
as well
ones
add it
later in the
back
year
to
don't do very well.
we should
Also
probably
tend to be
put-
very loaded with varroa mites. So if somebody calls me in July and says, "Hey, I've got this swarm, would you like?" I'm like, yeah, no, I don't want that. I don't want that one.
Okay.
Um,
So it's not a good idea to, in that case, just to merge them with others colony either.
I would treat them and then try to merge them.
Okay.
If you merge them with a bigger colony and there are drone layers, like hypothesized, typically the bigger colony will straighten out the smaller one and they'll come back together. And you'll have the advantage of the bees without wasting them. Bought-in method of mite checks. I'm not sure what that is. I have to say I've not heard of that. Gordon, can you tell me what it is?
Well, in the last presentation of the at-home beekeeping series,
Mhm.
there was a presenter that was talking about a method of gathering the mites by using wax strips, like like removing hair strips for people who remove hair, like from the legs or something.
Okay.
And you stick it on capped worker cells and then rip it off so you get the caps off a known number of cells and then shake out the unmerged larva and then do your swirling just like you do in a normal check to remove the mites from it. And so it gives you a number of mites that are in the cells as opposed to the phoretic mites walking around. And that was the first time I had ever heard of that methodology. And I'm wondering if you have and if you know anything about it.
Wow.
I have to say that's a new one on me. I know lately there's been a large move in the direction of testing using various methods like a pinprick test, where they give you a device that's a round circle with a bunch of like mini nails, and you poke the comb that's capped, and you see whether they're going to remove the capping and take the how hygienic they are, basically. That is a circuit for the test where they used to use a cylinder and pour nitrogen to freeze the comb and kill it and then see if the bees would clean it up. There's all kinds of new ideas about doing mite checks because the alcohol washes. I don't know. Some people like it, some people don't. So no, thanks for that. I'll look that up. I've not heard that one.
Yeah, I think isn't ABF sponsoring participants who want to participate in that and get the tool and then report back data of like the hygienic behavior.
That's the Sustainable Guild of Michigan is doing that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well,
James Lee.
I know I got an email from ABF that they were looking for people to sign up and then they'll
Oh.
like loan you the tool, but then you have to participate in, all the requirements like not to treat a hive and
Yeah,
there's a few
that's
different
definitely
criteria.
Michigan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be Michigan. In
Mhm.
fact, I saw an email today. They picked people and they're starting in on that.
Ah.
Look up the Sustainable Beekeepers Guild of Michigan and also the Northern Queen Initiative out of Michigan.
Mhm.
Those two programs are operated by James Lee. I was on the phone with him last week about some of that stuff. So
Yeah.
I want to spend just a few more minutes with a couple of oddball questions. Anything that you want to ask, just kind of roundtable, and then I'll just go one by one and check in on all of you. One of the questions that just came through is why don't you treat for mites all season without testing? The proper answer to that question is we want our bees to build resistance. And just like we don't take antibiotics just to make sure we stay healthy, We prefer to let the bees deal with the varroa mites so that they can evolve, develop some sort of resistance and mechanisms. And if we're constantly carrying them, they won't get there. Additionally, a lot of treatments are hard on bees. It's a stressor, it's difficult. You're introducing something into the hive environment that doesn't really belong there. And ideally, you'd be better off leaving it more natural and not putting that stuff in. So from that perspective, there's a bunch of different arguments about why not treat proactively. On the flip side of that, typically when people are measuring, a good majority of the time they find that they have mites, no surprise, and the mites are doing harm, and you should probably figure out a treatment regime. So much so that when I first started beekeeping, it was optional whether you treated, and it got to the point where you should treat at least once a year. And now there's beekeepers who are treating 3, 4, 5 times a year routinely, and they're measuring mites and finding the threshold is higher. Additionally, the harm that varroa mites have dealt to bees have become persistently more impactful over the years. Just over the years that I've been a beekeeper, I started in 2008. The virus loads are a lot harder and harsher on the bees. And I don't want to say it's gotten to the point where people are treating prophylactically, but I could point at a good number of people that if you really got them to answer honestly, they're doing it. They just feel it's silly. Every time I measure, I'm finding mites, so I'm just going to treat. I'd like to see it go the other way, where you would let the bees endure some level of mite duress and then treat and clean them up. And they can take mite duress in the first part of the year when they're rotating out a lot of bees and there's a lot of attrition. When you don't want to do that is from the middle of the year to winter start, because those are your winter bees and they have a far harder job going through December and January and so on. And those bees need to be crystal clean of any impacts of varroa mites. But in the beginning of the year, a lot of bees can take a lot of abuse because foragers are dying anyway. And the rotation of moving through to foragers happens at such a fast rate that even if they are impacted, they've got so many bees, they don't know what to do with them all. There's another aspect of that too, is coming out of winter, there's been no varroa mite development during the whole winter period. And varroa mites die from attrition through winter too. So typically you start your year with a low threshold, and it takes a while for that to grow to the point where it's harmful. So I was just having this conversation with my twin brother, who's a beekeeper. Should you treat in spring? I would argue, and I want you to lock this in your little notebook, you'd be better to treat in fall, late fall. Clean the varroa mites up so that they're non-parasitized going through winter, and they start the beginning of the next year without varroa mites, and they will do quite well all the way through the first part of spring and make you a lot of honey and be very healthy. And it's easy street from that standpoint. So try and figure out whatever your treatment regime is going to be, and especially come June, July, August, if you're going to opt not to measure, which some beekeepers don't, you really should be measuring in June, July, August to see, because that's when varroa mites get to the point where they're doing harm. Now, is anybody trying Noroa, the new treatment? I see one hand. Noroa is like birth control. You put it in your hives now before you put your honey supers on. They eat the product and they deliver it in the brood food, and the varroa mites go in the brood food, and when they come into contact with it, it does a DNA change. This is the first product licensed in the marketplace that is not, it's labeled as a miticide because they don't know what to call it, but it's technically not a miticide. It's not killing the mites. It's disabling their ability to form eggs, and therefore they can't reproduce. It doesn't work for all the mites, but it works for enough of them to thwart varroa mite growth through a 40-something day season. And so beekeepers put it in the spring, and they get a prophylactic low mite load all the way through to summer. Then you put a treatment in summer if the varroa mites are high, wipe out the varroa mites with something like Formic Pro. And then after, you could put it in again and prophylactically keep your mite loads all the way through to fall low, and then do one cleanup at the end of the year. That's what I hear beekeepers are saying they might want to do with Noroa, spelled with N as in November. Expensive product, but if it works the way it's supposed to, that might be one treatment regime path you could follow. Paula put it on 10 hives. I know who I'm going to call to find out how that went. Nice. All right, I'm going to go do a round table here. Let's go through everybody and tee up your questions. Ask whatever you want. You're amongst friends. We all learn from each other. I'll start with Pauline. See if you have anything.
Hi. Okay, so I'm in Maryland and my cherry trees are done blooming. The forsythias are just about done. In both my hives last week, there was, at least on the one hive, a queen cup. I had drones because I kind of did an inspection when it was on Saturday. It was really hot last Saturday. Pulling the boxes off, I'm opening drones. In between the boxes, I have wax. And when I was looking at the drones, everyone I looked at, I must have looked at like 20. I was pulling them out to see if I saw any mites on them. And I did not see any mites on any of those. So I think my mite count, and I did a lot of cleanup in the fall. So I haven't done, I wasn't necessarily gonna do a mite alcohol wash. I'm not sure if I should or I shouldn't. I was thinking, which probably shouldn't do, is I still have Viroxan. I was thinking of putting Viroxan on the hives, but I don't know if I should try to do a Demarest or Demarest, I don't know how you pronounce it, but with the hives, because I only have 2 hives, I don't really want more than 2-3 tops. So I'm thinking of the Demarest. Or should I do a split just because I'm afraid of swarming? So any advice?
Yeah, let's go through a couple things. First one, do you need to measure? We just talked about why you're probably not going to see a high mite load.
Right.
And secondarily, you're proving that out. Now, when they want to build drones and they don't have drone comb to do that, they will build it anywhere they can.
Yeah.
On the margins, under the frames, on the floor. Mostly you'll find them between the top bars of the bottom box and the bottom bars of the top box. And when you take that box off, you rip drone apart all over the place.
There were some on the frames as well, but not that many.
Yeah. And it's great that you just take the time to look at all the drone brood that's ripped open, or you look at, they're expendable, of course. So you can see whether there's varroa mites. And if you did see varroa mites, then
I would have done a
Yeah.
wash.
now as to whether you should use Noro or Viroxan.
Viroxan.
So for everybody, Viroxan is a treatment. It's a strip. You hang it over the frames. It delivers oxalic acid to the bees or to the varroa mites through contact. It is a good time to use that product if you plan to use it prophylactically, because you want to use it when they have a low mite threshold. You don't use that to do a knockdown because that's not its forte. But if you want to, like I just said with Noroa, keep them at bay, you could put that product in now. It's safe to use with honey supers. The only knock that I hear over and over again with that is as you hang it over the frames, where it's hanging down between the bars, in order for the bees to get around it, they chew the honeycomb out from behind it.
Oh,
And when you take the strips out, they make a mess. They chew, they get the fiber all over the place, and they wreck the comb that was adjacent to it. But if you take it out, they fix it. If you have it
I
and you
have
want
it.
to use it prophylactically, it's a good time to do it at the beginning of the season when the brood levels are low. You probably where you're at are going to see more brood than we are, but you should be good. Now, as to swarm, are you in a place that if you issued a swarm, it would be Swarmageddon problem, or oh well, it's a swarm?
If there's a swarm, I might not see it because I didn't last year when I had it. I'm like sort of backed up to woods and it's not level woods. It drops down.
Okay.
So they would be gone if they swarmed. I don't think
Yeah.
I didn't see them last year. I mean, maybe, I don't know.
As someone who teaches beekeeping, I'm supposed to tell you that swarms are terrible. You're not supposed to do it. They can end up in your neighbor's chimney and all this other stuff. It's the natural way. You're trying to stop nature. And if they swarm, it's not really the end of the world because most of the time they swarmed. Why? Because they had too many resources, too many bees, and your old queen goes away and they make you a new one.
Yeah.
You end up actually not in a bad place when this happens. Now, you'll have a period where they're not going to have a queen, but during that period when they don't have a queen, everybody's got nothing to do. There's no bees to take care of. Nurse bees are unemployed. What do? They clean up the interior. They do housekeeping, and they make a lot of honey.
They do.
So, as much as people like to talk down, don't let swarms happen. Now, I just taught the city of Boston beekeeping course. There's a Boston person in here. Welcome. Rose. I don't know that I'd want to be in the city of Boston on a 1/4 acre lot and have my bees fly off, but where you are, it might not be that bad of a problem. Now, if you want to stop it, Day-Marie is how I always pronounced it. It's a lot of work. It's a good way to go. And it is the great way to go if you don't want to make splits and have more bees.
Yeah.
So if you know how to do it and you're willing to go for it, then sure, it's a good way to go. And if you try it this year and you don't like it,
Yeah.
then make a split next year.
So I have 8 frame mediums.
Yeah.
That was it. And actually, I had a mentor from one of the clubs here this past weekend. He did it with his hives. I was there, I observed, but he has 10 frame deeps.
Yeah.
So is it
You
2
have
mediums?
three 8 frames or 2
Me or him?
in your brood nest? You.
I have three boxes for brood
3
nest.
8-frame mediums are your
Yes.
brood nest. Okay.
Yes. So is it 2, the excluder, and then take the third one and put that on top with an empty in between?
You're going to take, this is how you do Day-Marie shortcut, everybody. You're going to divide your nest into all the brood in progress and the queen and extraneous resources. At the base of the hive, you're going to leave a queen and a handful of resources and then staff her with foundation. And over top of that, you're going to put the queen excluder.
Okay.
You're going to take a box of foundation and put it over top. That serves as the chasm between the two. And then you're going to go to the side that had all of the brood in progress. And you're going to put that up on top. So all the frames that have open brood and even your capped brood go on top. The only thing that goes in the bottom is the queen and a couple resource frames and some bees.
Okay. Okay.
And that box that goes on top goes over the empty box so that there's a space between the two and there's a queen excluder. Is that how your mentor did it?
No, not quite. He did not.
Yeah.
And,
There's, in his defense, there's a lot of different ways that people think a Day-Marie works, but what I've described is the way you do it.
I mean, he had the 2 deeps, the queen excluder in between the 2 deeps, but in his bottom box, if I remember correctly, and maybe I don't, he had the queen with a couple only capped brood.
Okay, yeah,
And then
that's
the queen
right. Queen and
excluder,
capped brood. down on
Just
the
cat.
bottom.
No, I mean, he was looking for ones, no larva, no open
Yes, correct.
at all
That is
on
right.
the bottom. And then the other, because it was a deep, so it was the then the empty one, and then he had the rest on the top, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds right.
Okay.
That's what I described.
He was
Right? You take
very
all the open brood and brood in progress, and you put it in the
up
top
top.
box up above.
Yeah.
And then you have to go through that box
Knock
all the
all,
time to knock out the queen cells,
yeah.
or they will make a queen up there because
Yeah.
So everybody, why do you do this? I don't want to go into a lesson, but just the footnote. You're giving the queen all the room she needs to lay, and you're relieving the congestion downward in the queen chamber. You're taking all of the brood in progress and you put it up at the top of the stack, and it ages out. And there's no bees being made up there. So that population joins the greater good, but it doesn't create this huge run of new bees. The queen's down there with some resources and foundation, and she will eventually get back to building, but it kind of slows everything down.
Okay.
And then it builds a huge workforce, which if you're brave enough to put honey boxes way up on top, you'll make a lot of honey, which is what the Day-Marie method was also there for.
Did the Viroxan go in the top box or the bottom box?
In the bottom,
Okay.
you want to, you
The
can
new
put it in both actually, because you want to be where the varroa mites are, obviously, but eventually the queen's going to be down in the bottom.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of a mess for Viroxan, right? As to
Yeah.
what you do there.
Okay.
Well, it sounds like you're going to have a fun season.
It's going to be interesting. I don't have a flat yard, and I don't want to have to try to make more. I've leveled an area for my boxes, and I don't want to do more.
Yeah, fair enough. And incidentally, look, swarms are going to happen, everybody. So if you have extra boxes with extra brood comb, you just put a regular box out. I have
Swarm trap.
six,
Yeah.
6 regular boxes, 2 swarm traps sitting out on my property. And I'm going to catch swarms, I promise you. They're in your neighborhood. They're in your neighbors. You'll catch your neighbors stuff. So if you're afraid your hives are going to swarm, one of the things you could do is try and catch your own. And then they're not terrorizing your neighborhood. And please, if a swarm issues, be as kind and gentle and friendly as you can with your neighbors. If they call you and say they have one in the tree, explain to them that they're not going to sting because they don't have a hive to defend. Do everything you can to protect them. You show up in your hazmat, full head tail garb to capture a swarm, and they're standing there in their t-shirt wondering if they're going to die. Use perspective as to what the optics look like while you go collect a swarm. Give them a bee suit, talk to them the whole time, explain to them what you're going to do, tell them to go inside if they're not comfortable, and so on, and give them a jar of honey. Yeah, and have fun with that. So, all right, thanks, Pauline. Nancy, anything for you?
So I did an inspection when it was warm in March. I have to say I put in Viroxan. I don't have a booming hive. It seems like they're half the size that I started with. So, but they made it through the winter. I still have some of the installation on, which I was happy.
Yeah.
And within the next 2 weeks, I have to take out the Viroxan. Do I do an inspection? Do I do a alcohol wash? Remember, I'm still new at this.
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, you're supposed to do an alcohol wash, everybody.
Yeah,
And then you determine you need treatment because you're above the threshold. You put your treatment in, you run the course of the treatment. And then when the treatment is over, you take the treatment out. That's important because you don't want to leave vestiges of the product in there where a weak dose is getting into the varroa mites and they could develop resistance. And you're supposed to determine whether or not your treatment was effective by measuring again. because
Okay.
sometimes they don't work the way you think they're going to. And if the threshold is high, you issue another treatment, presumably of something else. And if it's low, then you're good to go, and you could wait a month and then do a treatment check, a test again later.
Yeah. The
So
fact that I
theoretically,
have,
you should test it.
again, great. Like I said, I don't have a high count of bees. So,
That's not concerning to me, Nancy. What happens, we have to remember the bees that you have in your box are the ones that came through winter. They've been in there for months. This is still attrition until the trees bloom and the nectar bombs out. You still have bees that came from September maybe, and they're going to continue to dwindle a little bit until they kick into gear. Some queens are reticent until there's nectar coming in the door. I'm not building any more of you. Just hang on,
yeah.
and they're not going to build. They're slow to build, but then all of a sudden they bomb. I've seen small colonies dwindle and dwindle and dwindle, and I did the same thing you did. Like, look sideways, like, what are you guys doing in there? Then all of a sudden they recover and they catch up and they pass the colonies next to them. I don't want to say that I had, this is a rare thing to say. When you buy bees, you buy Italian bees, Carniolan bees, maybe you're getting Buckfast bees or some special label. Most of the time they're pretty pedestrian. They're like buying a mutt dog. You just don't get pure breed. I had artificial insemination queens that were true Carniolan queens. They did exactly what you're talking about, Nancy. They were so slow to build. I went to my mentor and said to him, "What's going on with these?" He said, "You wait." Their characteristic is they maintain a really small colony right till the end, and then as soon as nectar comes in, they grow, and they did exactly that. So it just could be the genetic tendency you have of your queen.
Now they never went up. They stayed downstairs. They stayed in the brood box for the
Yeah.
winter.
Wow. That's kind of unusual. But that means that's another sign
Of
of conservative trait. They didn't need a lot of food, so they didn't need to push up into the honey stored above them. They just kind of stayed down and chilled out all winter. I wouldn't be surprised if you call me later and say this is my strongest hive.
I only have one hive,
Yeah. Well,
but I'm getting a second. I am.
yeah, when you tell me the thing is booming. Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, thank you.
Good. Teresa?
So I don't really have a question. I guess I could turn it into a question. Has anybody or you ever had this happen? But early in March, when the bees first started taking cleansing flights and stuff, I noticed one day that there was some odd looking stuff on the landing board. And when I took a closer look, it looked like some type of larva. And I thought it was dead. So I thought, oh, well, that was just something that, was frozen. It could have looked like wax. But so I took the tool that I have that cleans out the bottom board and started scraping in there, and there was more larvae, and it was beetle larvae. So when the weather got warm enough, I think that was around St. Patrick's Day, I did open the hives and got to the bottom board, and 2 out of the 3 bottom boards were covered with beetle larvae. It was really disgusting. So I was able to, take like a spatula type tool and scraped it all out and washed off the bottom board, and then got some beetle traps and put them in. And there's no beetles now. I mean, there's a couple, but it's not like overrun like it would have been had I not caught that. But I never heard of that. I'm in my 3rd year, and I was just wondering if anybody ever had anything like that happen.
Yeah, that doesn't ring a bell to me. I mean,
Okay.
there's times when you get in the season, and if the bees are not defending the bottom board, they can crawl around and eat the food in there. That's as good nutrition as what they get when they're rolling around through. But coming out of winter, seeing that's not something I'm customary to hearing.
It
But
was
there's plenty
March.
of food down there for them to
Okay.
do it. And I don't know, could they, these small hive beetles will overwinter? I've seen a couple of them in my colonies when I was poking around. They will overwinter with the bees, surprisingly. Not a lot of them, very few make it through, but they can. Wax moths don't. But could there be small harp?
I mean, there had to be, right? There had to be somebody laying some eggs in there.
Yeah,
So once I got that out, um, I'm not seeing like a lot of beetles or anything, and I put the beetle traps in. So
that
my
is the
hive,
reason, by the way, to clean your bottom boards off in spring, right? To
yeah,
just get them tidy. When you do your first inspection and it gets warm enough, go all the way to the bottom and scrape them out. It also improves the longevity of your woodenware because you have that wet, damp stuff laying on the bottom board. And if the bees don't clean it out, sometimes they won't or can't, you're better off to just scrape all that stuff out. So yeah, that's
yeah, it
interesting.
was
I would
it
have
was
liked to
very
have seen some of
cathartic.
those. Are you sure? It sounds like they were, I would bet, small hive beetles versus wax moth, right? They didn't have legs in the middle.
No, they weren't wax moths. I've seen those. Yeah, they were definitely hive beetles.
Okay. That's a good one. Did you ask anybody around you to any feedback?
Yes, I took a picture and I sent it to a friend who is a commercial beekeeper, and he was the one who said he thought it was hive beetles. And then
Yeah.
once I got into the hives and was able to scrape it, you could see that, but I thought it was amazing that the bees were pushing it out. They were pushing it out of the entrance reducer.
Yeah, first day, so what I thought you were going to say, or the conclusion is sometimes you find brood that is rejected and they pull it out and drop it. And that is indicative of a chill. They built brood all the way out in a large pattern, and then it got cold and they had to retract, and the brood around the outside didn't survive. And they end up just pulling it out and dropping it down. And then the garbage bees come and take it out of the hive, but maybe they didn't get it. So I thought you were going to tell me they were cast off brood, which happens this time of year.
No, they were wiggling maggots.
Yeah. Wow. That's a good one. Yeah, I can't say I've ever heard that one. So,
Well, that's my share for tonight.
okay. Go to Gordon. You have anything else you want to?
Yeah, I had the good fortune of 100% survival over winter, which was my
Nice.
first time ever for that. And people have been asking me, well, what did I do different to make that happen? And I did do a few things different, but I got to thinking about the winter that we had. It was very long, prolonged, steady cold. And I got to thinking that in, unless the cluster is somewhere that they can't move to new honey, that maybe long, steady, prolonged cold is actually easier for them to survive than the fluctuations, like you said before, where, if it's not insulated, it just moves up and down. They're clustering, reclustering, and um, do you think that's true that they do better with a consistent low temperature than the up and downs?
The research will tell you the answer is kind of yes. And they did a lot of research where they keep bees in building. In certain areas of the country, they keep them indoors and they set the temperature to a specific range. It's usually like 40 degrees, which is optimal, from what I understand. And 40 degrees keeps them quiescent, but it's also the right where they don't have to use a lot of resources. But customarily, I've heard this over and over again and have experienced it. The colder winters tend to be a little bit better for the bees for whatever reason. And I don't know, I do hear a lot of people, it's either feast or famine, but more so that a lot of people did really well this year. A lot of bees
Hmm.
got through on the
Okay.
obvious level, which is nice to hear. It's a great thing to hear.
Yeah.
If you know any of that secret sauce, I'm sure the rest of us would love to hear it. I'm assuming you treated properly last year. You fed your bees, they were happy.
Yeah, I did probably better. I was on top of mite treatment last year better than I ever had before, and I insulated the outer walls of the hive this year that I've never done before. So those are two things, and I think that luck was a factor.
Yeah. There is a little bit of a secret formula for everybody. And it's in the lesson plan, so I don't hide it. You treat your bees in July and August, or make sure that they're not overwhelmed with varroa mites. And if they can be non-parasitized from August through till October, and they're well fed, and they have a young queen, your survivor chances go up exponentially. That's really the secret sauce. You put those factors together with a couple other ones, good formed comb, insulation doesn't hurt because that adds even more to help them out. You improve your chances, but really the key thing is keeping the varroa mites out, keep the viruses down, keep the injuries to the bees that the viruses or the mites get from wounding the bees. Take care of all that stuff in July and August before it overwhelms the bees and all the perfect storm occurs. And then you keep them well fed throughout fall and into winter. You'll do well. And there's people who've been in this program, heard me say that over and over again to the point where they repeat it. And when we did surveys, in meetings in January and said, "How are your bees doing?" I think only one person here said I lost a lot of my hives. Everybody here is saying I'm doing pretty well, and they've just heard that message. And I'd like to take credit for it, but it's just common sense as far as I'm concerned. So, um, I want to go to Mark. If anything, any questions? You're getting things going there.
Yeah, trying to. So if I get bees in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, my nukes, when do I have to first check for mites? And when, if I want to use Naroa, when would I consider using that?
So, a couple things for you. When you get your bees, ask your provider when they were treated.
Right.
If they were treated, chances are that you likely don't have to do varroa mite management out of the box. That being said, if you want to get a head start and you're willing to spend the money, putting the Roa on right from the beginning is not that bad of a plan because it keeps your bees non-parasitized while they're developing to full grown, and healthy bees grow faster, do better. So from that perspective, you could do that right from the get-go. When do you generally check? Usually when you get to the second box full, which is usually somewhere about the end of July if you start now. If you're starting with the nuke, it might come a little bit faster. But once they have 2 boxes full of bees, for every bee that came out, think of it this way: when there's varroa mites, there could be 5 to 6 varroa mites coming out, and the population just continues to grow in lockstep with your population of bees. So usually July timeframe, I would tell you to start looking for testing and treating. Diane, before you leave, I don't know if you have to leave like lickety split. Did you want to check in on anything? I'm not sure if we lost her. If anybody has to go, just give the high sign. I want to make sure I get your question before. Yeah, anything else, Mark? I hope that helps answer your good. Paula?
Okay. Okay.
There you go.
I joined the meeting late. I don't know if this was addressed, but I have one booming hive. I got bees on top of the frame in both boxes and bees on the bottom of the frames on both boxes. It's just a tremendous amount of bees. I started out, I had a medium on the bottom with 2 deeps on top that I kept them like that for the winter, and it's exploding with bees. So I was able to get to the bottom box, which was the medium, and I looked in there. They had like a little bit of cap brood. I didn't see any sign of the queen, no eggs or larvae. So I took that box and I moved it to the top. I put a queen excluder in because I want to just get rid of that box. So I think I have to split, but I was researching online about the different ways to split. And somebody said if you want to increase your bees, then you split. If you want to increase your honey, then you just add supers. So I don't know, with that amount of bees, adding supers would give them a little more room, but would that solve the problem from keeping them from swarming? Because there's so many.
Yeah, I'm almost of the opinion that if you want to prevent them from swarming, split them.
Split them.
It's really the answer.
Yeah.
And even a strong colony, this is important, everybody. Split them early, not too early, not crazy early, but split them at the beginning of the season before they get too much inertia. Because once they have inertia, even if you split them, they will grow and rebound quite quickly, whoever's got a queen especially, and they will swarm again. I've split big colonies coming out of winter and had them swarm later in May, beginning of June, because they got right back to congested and all of the triggers. So don't think that if you make a split, you're out of Splitsville, because you might not be. But honestly, if you took a medium to a large colony and you put honey boxes on and you even gave them a 3rd deep, if you're running 2 deeps, for example, just illustratively, they still might split or they still might swarm. Remember, tendency to swarm, as much as we want to prevent it, may be genetically predisposed in the colony, and you're not going to stop it. Now, if you take all the wind out of their sails, you remove their queen, you remove their resources, you take away a large part of the population, they have no choice but to reset and go, hold on a minute. If we swarm again, we may not survive. It kicks in survival instinct, and they would stop. So if you want to stop a colony from swarming, you almost have to do an artificial swarm. Now, this doesn't get talked about enough. If you take a queen and 4 frames out of a 20 frame box, let's just say 2 deeps, 4 frames and a queen with resources, and you put an extra frame in a 5 frame nuke and you set it alongside, that colony will stay put for quite a while over there. You could put another 5 frame box on it. You can get through the season maybe. And then if you want, you can do a recombine. Why would you want to do that? Hold a hive on the side and just keep it like it's not doing anything for you? Because if something goes wrong with your main one when it requeens itself, or you go and you buy a queen and they reject it because you wanted to put a queen in it, try something, you got that one sitting right over there, that queen that you could use as your resource hive. And that goes for any of your other colonies. Not to mention the fact that it's a comb making factory. And if you want, they get 2 full boxes of 5 frame, put another 5 frame on it and put honey in it, and they'll make you honey too. There's no reason a nuke can't make honey. So
I do have a double nuke resource hive.
yeah,
That's empty. I bought that like a while ago in anticipation of needing it in the future. So, but my understanding is that when you do a split, you have to relocate the bees 2 miles or something from the
yeah,
house.
you should relocate them. Now,
Okay.
I'm going to say this, it's against the books. If you made a split in the height of the season and you loaded the box with bees, the foragers are going to fly out and go back home. But if there's brood in the box, The nurse bees are going to stay there because they won't abandon the brood. And if the queen is there, there's affinity, so they may stay there. You might lose some bees, but you're not going to lose enough that they can't recover from that. And if I'm wrong and they all fly back to the main, you just make a split and then you take it somewhere.
I
But a lot
see.
of times I make splits and I just put it on the other side of my property. I
Okay.
think that's what the book says.
Like how big is your property? Mine's only an acre.
Yeah,
So,
that's far enough. Put it a half acre away.
okay.
Don't menace your neighbors, but I have a little
Yeah.
bit bigger property, so I have a more. You know, the other
Mhm.
thing I'll say to all of you, find a friend in beekeeping. Somebody in your neighborhood, somebody you talk to, two minds are better than one, and bring it over and drop it off at their house or drop it off at your family member's house for a week. Hey,
Mhm.
park some bees in your backyard for a week and then you bring it back home.
Okay.
My brother always brings his colonies that he splits over to his son's house. And then he goes and he brings them back. He just sticks them up in the woods behind his barn. So
How long, what's the time frame that you keep them
once
away?
you see them orienting and
Mhm.
they're flying and bringing back resources, it's cruel, but that's when you can bring them back. Because
Okay.
if they're foraging, they've already got the lay of the land and they're anchored. Yeah.
So I have two of the plastic nukes when I first started 2 years ago. I can put them in there temporarily,
keep them.
relocate them,
Yeah.
and then bring the two nukes back. Do it that way.
Yeah. For all of you that are getting nukes, hang on to your equipment. Now look, there's those cardboard ones.
Yeah.
I don't know about those.
No.
The Coroplast ones, they last a long time, and certainly the plastic ones, the nice yellow and brown ones or whatever colors they are, they're gold. So
Now my top deep was so heavy I couldn't even lift it. It was filled with the honey, and there was a little bit of brood in that one.
that was from
But
last year, though, right? The leftover.
no, because in February, mid-February, it was light, so they just built
Wow.
that. It
What the heck
seems
you
in
got
the.
going on there?
I don't
How'd you
know.
do
I don't know.
that?
I don't know. But
You're
it
in the
was
Pine
very.
Barrens? Are you in the
Pardon me?
Barrens?
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
Is there anything blooming there early?
Well, just in my yard, I got a lot of red bud and cherry trees and pear, and
Yeah.
a lot of trees are blooming right now. But I mean, this was way
I
back.
wish you had a bigger property. I'd bring a couple hives over.
Yeah. So what I
You
did.
you make a lot of really good friends here.
Yeah, what I did was to buy some time. I stuck a honey super on it yesterday. I tried to go in and I was going to try to do a split or something with it, but then it got windy and cold, so I just
Yeah.
closed everything up and stuck a honey
I
super
know.
on.
I wanted to do work yesterday, and the same thing. It got windy and cold once the clouds moved in. So
Yeah.
you're a perfect example for everybody to see. Local is local. Who knows what their bees found and why they loaded in so early? To say that you have a full honey super here sitting in the beginning of April, that's just crazy. But
Yeah, it's a full deep.
yeah,
It's
it
the deep.
happens.
Yeah. I mean, so I'll have to deconstruct it and do the nuke thing. And my mentor Sheila's on the Zoom, so
Well,
I'll
the
be
other
working
thing
with
you could
her.
do, Paula, is harvest that, right? There's no reason you can't harvest it and give them more space.
Yeah, right.
Right.
I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say to all of you, and you'll hear me say this later. I see these people with these crazy hives that are 15 boxes high. What are you doing? As soon as they fill 2 or 3, I take them off and put new ones on. I don't want to be getting on a ladder to take that stuff off. It's too heavy. I could
So
do it, but that's not what I want to do.
do you put 2 honey supers on at a time, or you wait until they
Right in
fill
the beginning, I start with 2 honey supers.
2?
I'm
Okay.
glad you said that because I meant to mention that.
Mhm.
When you put honey supers on, you could put 1, but you probably should put 2.
Okay.
And the reason logic, this is just folklore, right? You can't go to a book and say, this is the person who proved that this is the way you should do it. Common wisdom passed down through the ages, 2 honey boxes. The heat goes up in the top one. The one that's closest to the brood is close enough proximity to the bees where they're warm and they're walking through it. And you want them to walk on the comb. and you want them to clean it up, and you want them to see an abundance of like, oh my God, we have an attic, we need to put things in it. You know, you want them to have this sense of space so that the message goes down through the brood nest. All you foragers, we got plenty of room up there, get to work. That's what happens. And so the common wisdom is if you want to make honey, put 2 boxes on. Now, I wouldn't have said do that in March when it was cold, because they needed the heat on those roller coaster days, and you don't want it to go up into 2 empty honey boxes. But when the weather level's off and it's 45 at night and it's 70 every day and the trees are in full bloom and the red buds are breaking and all that stuff, 2 honey supers. Put them on, get them going.
Okay. Well, one more thing on my outer cover, they're so heavy from moisture in there and a lot of mildew and mold. Can they be lined like with a some sort of insulation to prevent the wood from getting so saturated with
Is
the
your
condensation?
hive down on the ground?
No, I have it's probably at least 18 inches. You know, I have 2 cinder blocks with boards in them, and they sit in the top hole of the cinder block, you know, the boards.
Your area, the pine barren holds a lot of water underneath the trees, right? Isn't that the
Yeah, I have them in my garden area, and we put pavers and then the cinder blocks on top of the pavers. And then, like I said, the wood creates like a bench. They're
Are you
kind
in the
of,
woods or are your hives in sun?
they're in the sun.
Yeah. Huh. You're also, are you not far from the ocean?
Probably about 20 miles, maybe.
Yeah.
I tried to
It's not
ventilate
normal to see that much moisture on a colony like that. And typically in
Yeah.
full sun, it would dry it. The bees would maintain the climate to dry that out. It's unusual
Mm.
to say that you have moisture problems like that.
Yeah, like fuzzy mold and black on there.
Do you have an upper entrance?
I just opened them when I went in and did, you know, my first inspection. But
Yeah,
all
maybe.
winter I had it closed, and I had put some skewers under the cover to lift it up a little bit to let some air
yeah.
flow through.
Mm-hmm.
But it still has a lot on there.
Yeah, it's not typically that kind of mold doesn't impact the bees. It's not the greatest, but they usually clean that up. So wait and see what happens. If so, the answer is just provide more ventilation.
Okay.
Usually.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sheila, are you proud of her?
Yes, I'm here. I've been thinking about for a while. Your last time you spoke about leaving old, equipment sitting around the yard. I do 8-frame mediums, so I was just wondering, would I put like 3 brood frames or so
I would put 2 or 3
in the top? Like if I put 2 8-frame boxes together to make 8-frame mediums to be equipment sitting out. Just put like brood frames at the top, but fill them all so they don't do anything.
Yeah, fill them.
Crazy.
That's key.
Okay,
Don't leave
just
open space, because if they do move in there, they're going to build a crazy wonky comb day.
okay.
Yeah.
But just in the top, put the brood frames because
Put
that's
'em
where
in the
they're
top,
going to start,
yeah.
right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Been
Yeah, and
meaning
if
to
you
get
have
out and
excess
sit out some.
propolis and things like that, pitch it in there. Leave it on the bottom board. Things when the sun beats down and warms all that up and those odors come out of the front entrance, that's like a bouquet of flowers to them. If you have old comb and you scrape the propolis off and old wax and any of that, put it in there. Even if it's debris, it's okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now, where should I put that? You mean just because I scraped a bunch of frames and I saved all that. I don't know if it's propolis
Just
wax,
drop it on
what
the
it
bottom
is.
board, because you're not
Okay.
going to. I mean, maybe you will take those boxes off, but you clean the bottom board later. But during the spring, having all that old crusty stuff down there, that smells like good stuff for the bees, especially when it gets hot and it exudes that old comb smell.
Wondering if you
Okay, and you mentioned Swarm Commander, which Paula split with me a bottle,
Yeah,
made me a little bottle, so I
stuff
got
is
that to
great.
use.
and
Yeah.
then big box, and then it needs the
Yeah.
cover, and then
Yeah.
the metal.
Okay. Anything else?
Okay, thank you.
And just
Just one other thing. I had a lot of purple eye on one of the tops. When I pulled the frame out of a top, that broke off all the drone, broke apart and had purple eyes. How much longer before,
That's
there's
the
a
end
problem?
stage. Purple eye drone is for those of you that know, a drone stays white during development. And then at the last day or so, the eyes turn a purple color. It's called purple eye drone stage. It's neat that you saw that. But then they start to develop the color, and the wings are the last thing to finish. And so that bee will be coming out would have any moment now. So you're within days when you're in the
Of
purple.
them where they would start raising queens, or
So when a drone emerges and the drones are walking around inside the colony after they've come out, the first thing they do is they feed, they harden their exoskeleton, and they beg for food. And it takes 12 days thereabouts for queen to develop its sexual maturity. All its boy parts have to finish developing. And then it'll go out and do some flights while it's doing that. Check out the neighborhood, get acclimated. And usually 12 to 15 days after it emerges, that's when it starts to venture out in the afternoon. Between 1 and 4 in the afternoon is the quote unquote book version of when they leave. When it's 70 degrees or higher, they'll fly out and find drone congregation areas. So 12 to 15 days after emergence is when you know that, okay, the boys are primed, they're ready to go.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. Last one. Any more?
That's it. Thank you very much.
Okay. Deborah?
This was my first year of going through winter, and I don't know when I lost my bees because I didn't want to open up the hive because it was so cold. I mean, there really wasn't. Then several weeks ago, I went and there were a lot of dead bees outside, and I opened up my hives, and it was just devastating. There wasn't a single living soul in there, but
You're not alone, by the way.
What's that?
I said you're not alone. It happened.
I figured as much. So I had a lot of honey though, and I did extract it. It's the best honey that we've ever had.
Nice.
I've got about a gallon and a quart.
Nice.
But my frames are filled with mold and green mold, and I've been scraping and cleaning for the last couple of weeks. And I guess my biggest concern is I don't know what happened to everybody. And I left my nectar holders in the hives, and I wonder if I just had too much moisture.
If you have green mold, that's typically a sign of excess moisture. When you went in the first time, I'm assuming you looked down between the frames and you saw dead bees in between the frames.
Right.
When you pulled the frame out, what did you see? Describe it to us.
I saw green mold and I saw honey, but I saw capped and bees that were stuck in the little hole, in the holes.
Okay. Yep, I lost her. Everybody, she's frozen.
They sit on a little.
Oh, there you go. Okay. You froze for a period.
Oh, they sit on a tile. I put tiles down and so forth.
Yeah.
But I don't really know what happened. And
So when you pulled the frame up, was there a little cluster of bees like the size of a grapefruit?
No.
Were the bees in the cells with their tails sticking out?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And then there was a lot of hive, and a lot of dead bees on the outside.
Okay. So I I can't tell you the truth because I didn't see it. I can make educated guess.
I'll take it.
But typically what happens is varroa mite vectored on the bees. They dwindled to the point where they couldn't keep themselves warm anymore. The bees in the cells were trying to generate heat. And if they aren't robust enough to move around, even if there's food right next to them, then they will starve, even though there's food in there. The moisture from them dying and decaying and getting into warm weather and such creates mold. I cleaned out a hive this week that I didn't get to. It was moldy and gross. I have all kinds of dead, smelly bees in the they're like a dead animal. They're going to die and desiccate at first, but as soon as the weather breaks, they create a lot of moisture. As to the comb, whether it still has dead bees in it, whether it's moldy, if you put another colony in, I want you all to think of this. We are, I am, I don't like these frames. I don't know if I want to use them myself, right? But when a hive dies in nature and they look like that, nobody goes in the bee tree and cleans them up. And a swarm moves in and says, this is what we found. And you know what? They just clean it up and they make use of it. So you can reuse those frames. And if you don't want to, discard the ones that are ucky looking, use everything else that's usable, and put foundation in to supplement what you lost and restart, and you're good to go.
Even if that foundation is blackish, it's not mold, it's just black from age.
If you have really old comb that's like multiple years old, and you also said something, and I want everybody to pick up on that. If you had a brood frame that had a capped brood here, and a capped brood there, and a capped brood here, and a capped brood there, just spotty brood, that's a sign of disease. They succumb to disease. When you pull it up and there's spots of covered brood where the bees didn't come out, that's usually a disease state. I would not use those frames. I would be more apprehensive of using a frame of non-emerged spotty brood than I would be one with mold on it. The reason being is if the viruses killed the bees from varroa mites, all of those bees that have been incubating over winter on those warm days with the virus load in, what's the first thing they're going to do? They're going to go uncap all that, clean it, and take them out, and they're going to get exposed to them. Virus can live sometimes over winter in the cold state. We'd like to think it would freeze out, but it's been proven that it has. So if you have yucky brood frame from a dead out, I would not use that. I would discard that. If it has green mold on it, they clean it up. That's just nature's way of, doing what it does. But bees don't care. They'll clean that up and fix it. And if you don't like it, get rid of it.
I started treating in July and in August, and I actually left varroa strips in my hive in the fall. And
what did you use? Did you use Viroxan?
I used those long strips that you hang.
Apivar?
Yeah, that's what I
Apivar.
use.
Okay. So I'm again, speculation city here. Apivar has been proven to be not effective as much as it used to be.
Okay.
Apivar they've developed resistance to it. And so if you use Apivar after it's done 56 days, or if you've run the full course, it's a 42-day treatment. But if you let it run to the end, it's 56 days. After you fixed 56 days with Apivar, everyone, make sure you do a mite test, because sometimes it works and other times it doesn't. And lately, the report has been it's not working. And so maybe you did do the right thing, treat in July, but maybe it wasn't effective.
So which one should I use instead? The Viroxan?
I would use Viroxan, Naroa, Apigard when the bees are low population. And if you need to do something where you have a high mite load, it's Formic Pro. That's the one in July that I would use. You could use it with Honey Supers, Formic Pro. Now, I want to clear something up, and I see that question. When I say get rid of the frame, I don't mean the wooden part of the frame. I mean the foundation and the beeswax. If you're using plastic, pop it out. Do you want to go through the process of scraping the wax off the plastic? If you use that, you can. How much is your time worth? You could buy a plastic foundation for like $2 or something like that. So do the math. But you just take a hive tool and scrape all the plastic off, get it clean as you can and re-wax it and put it back in. Or if you're using wax, cut it all the way out. Put a new sheet of clean foundation in with the pins and put it back in your hive. But you don't have to throw out the wooden part. The wooden part's reusable.
Well, I have a box of the deep frames that's brand new, but the foundation is plastic. What should I treat that with? Nothing?
No, just make sure it has a good wax coating on it so the bees will build it out properly.
Okay. I mean, I spent hours cleaning these frames, and I looked at them today and I went, this is ridiculous. Go buy.
Yeah, I know. We were just having this discussion at the Bucks County meeting a couple of weeks ago. Like, is it really worth it? I'm frugal. I would scrape that off. And I would actually do something with the wax, but that's another story. The one thing that I will say to everybody, when you buy wax foundation, or you're buying plastic foundation coated with wax, buy it from a reputable supplier. Try not to buy it from Amazon or XYZ vendor, who knows where they got their stuff from. If it's coming from a true vendor, they're going to make sure it's beeswax and it's well coated. I think, and I'm not usually this way, that Right Cell, which is the one that comes with extra coating, that's how they used to sell it. Now they charge you extra for it, but it's worth it.
What
But
is
if you
that?
buy
What
it
is that?
Right, RITE Cell. If you buy it from Amazon and it's coming from China, it's probably not pure wax. It might have other waxes mixed in. It might have heavy chemicals in it. And if it's not real wax, the bees could, why don't bees build out honeycomb quickly? Because it's terrible wax on the coating. Buy from a reputable supplier. It's worth it. Especially if it's
I
expensive.
will say that last fall I was really so proud because my hives were just loaded with honey, and I didn't take any off because I wanted them to have enough food for the winter.
Yeah. That's one thing I would say to you. In meaning well, you might have actually made a detriment. What we say in this program is you should take the honey supers off and compact them down to the brood nest and make sure there's plenty of food in the brood nest. Because if you leave honey supers on top, the heat comes off the colony and it goes up into the honey supers where they are not. And so they have to burn energy all winter long trying to stay warm because the heat's not coming and hitting the top of the inner cover or the underside of the inner cover and banking down and creating an area for them.
So I should have taken my box of supers
take
off.
your boxes off. Make sure you feed them really well so that they're 60 to 80 pounds in your brood nest, and take the honey supers off. That's our coaching. Yeah, and if you stay with us through the year, we'll talk about how to load into spring come summertime, how to load into winter. So keep coming back, everybody.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Wen Ling, anything else for you?
Yeah,
I know
I
we
have a
chatted
question
earlier.
about this reusing the frame. So, 2 years ago, we split and the bees thrive, but then swarm, we cut the swarm, but then the swarm wasn't queen right, so we were told to merge the boxes so that reuse the bee, whatever was left over in the bee. So I put newspaper in between. So I have a year stack, like 4 brood boxes.
Okay.
This 100 super on top. And then I broke my wrist.
Oh no.
So a surgery and everything, we kind of forgot about it. by the time we got back to maybe late summer.
You've been with us before, and I remember this.
Yes, you were our first mentor.
Yeah.
We went to your the hands-on session.
I remember.
That's when we decided that really we should follow the club, so to learn something. So then so we have the really stacked high boxes neglected. Really is our fault. But by the time we got to it, it was like the colonies was sort of gone, and when open up the boxes, they were disgusting, filled with hive beetles and wax moth. And all this frame were like, you see those wax moth
Oh no.
or hive beetle
Yeah, that's
pads
a
on
mess.
looks very gross. So I like tossed out a third of them. My husband wanted to keep the frame, so I still have those frame, but I wouldn't use them. So we
You
had
have
like
the
8
wood part.
boxes in there.
You
What
have the
do
wood part or the
what?
you have the wooden part.
I toss out everything. I toss out
Okay.
a third of them, including wooden part.
Yeah, okay.
But my husband wanted to. He wanted to keep them, and I didn't want to deal with them. So we still have them in the shed. What do we do with them? I have many stacks of. Now we're
So they're still sitting in the box the way they were at the time?
at the time they were outside, and then we clean up, put
Yeah.
everything away for the winter, and we
I would take them out and bite the bullet. Get yourself a nice frosty beverage or something and clean it out.
clean out the frame. They can be reused.
Yeah, if the wood is still sound, you can reuse them. They may have canoe divots, if you know what I mean, if you've ever seen what wax moth does.
Oh yeah.
Once you punch all the wax and stuff out, I could show you a picture. I think I showed it last of I put frames in a plastic bag and the wax moth got in and decimated it. It destroyed everything. What a mess. But
Right.
after I cleaned it all up, I just put new foundation back in it. Your mileage may vary. Take it apart. Make sure you go do that, please. Don't leave that sitting in there because you'll invite rodents and all kinds of other things that'll
Yeah.
come in. But go clean it up. And if the wood looks good, I would use it.
Okay, so
Yeah.
keep the frame, the wooden frame, but buy
Keep the
new
wooden part,
foundation
get rid of the
and use it.
rest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
that makes the cleanup job easier because you just go,
So
you put it out, but then you have to take your hive tool and scrape all those wax moth that are embedded in the wood. That's
yeah.
a pain, but it's
so gross.
doable.
I didn't even, it's so gross.
It's
I didn't
doable, and
even-
I've done it. I've done it. I'm cheap.
Okay.
I don't like to throw away.
Okay.
Now, sometimes they burrow through the wood and chew through it so much that they might chew through the bottom board and break the corner off. Then you're going to have to throw it away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have a stack of all this because then beginning of last year we lost half of a colony, so
But, you
we had only left. Thanks. So we only have two colonies left, but they're thriving this winter.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Look, I know we're at 9 o'clock. I think I have Eileen, who I don't see. I don't know who the phone number is, and Roseanne to go if I'm looking
Jessica
at
is waving her hand.
Roseanne, how are you? Just want to check in on you.
Hold on a second.
Okay.
Figure out how to get my video on here. So I'm the Boston visitor.
Yeah.
Val sent an email. I appreciate your offering this. Can never learn too much of discovering that. I am not getting a hive this season. I am planning to mentor over the summer and start next spring.
Good.
So, a couple of questions about the insulation, which I hadn't heard about. Is that something that happens around the outside of the brood box? And is it just the brood box, or is it all boxes get insulated?
So a typical winter configuration, if you are doing the optional insulation, is you put insulation over top of the inner cover and under the roof. Some people put insulation over the roof on top of that. And typically you can go one of a couple different common ways. Some people put tar paper just to break any wind blowing through. They staple them to the outside of the box in a wrap. Some people buy a physical wrap. They sell them in bee stores. It looks like a plastic bag with some sort of filler, and you slide it down like a sleeve over top of the two boxes. Other people go the full route, which is to buy foam panel like you would put on a house, 2-inch foam insulation. It's called XPS foam. And you cut that out and you use bungee cords or whatever to physically stick it, hold it to the side, and insulate the hives. And our notoriously a Langstroth box is 3/4-inch plywood. It's not very insulative. Do the bees need it? Technically, no. They can make it through winter in Canada in colder weather than we have. But as you've heard, there's a lot of benefits for insulating hives. And if you're a hobbyist and you only have a couple hives and you want to give the best for your bees, you'll find that many hobbyists get on board and they insulate their hives for winter.
We have both kinds. My husband built really like two-inch foam boxes for all of insulators, but later we found this Bee Cozy, the
Bee Cozy slides over.
Bee Cozy
Yeah.
slide through. It's so much easier. So we've been only using the Bee Cozy, but on top we built 2-inch foam cover on top over the what do you call the top cover.
The roof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you insulate yours? Or do you just leave the boxes?
My boxes are always with a 2-inch insulation over the inner cover, every single one of them. And I also run a considerable amount of polystyrene hives, which are insulated by default. When it comes to my Langstroth hives, the wooden ones, like everybody has, sometimes I insulate them if I get around to it, and other times I don't. I just don't get to it. If I have a nucleus box, I try to insulate it because a 5-frame nuke could use the advantage for sure. So it depends, depending on how. I'm currently remodeling my house, so I didn't spend a lot of time last year, quite honestly, insulating everything. I've just been too busy. So.
And just one other question. I know you spoke earlier because I asked the question about the split. So I myself desire only to have hopefully just 2 hives. Essentially, when you split, that's how people get multiple hives, right? Down the
Yes.
road?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if you do the nuke and then move it, and then you said bring it back, that's to enhance a hive that might not be doing well. And if say your hives end up doing well and you have that split in the nuke box, is that something that you would give to a local beekeeper or something? If
Yeah, and I'm
like
glad you brought that up because that's, we've talked about that in the Boston course. If you don't want bees, but inevitably they're going to swarm and you want to prevent the swarm, you make a split. There is always someone looking for bees. Always. All you have to do is contact your local beekeeper club and say, I have I don't want any more bees. And by the way, we get 4 or 5 of these a year for our association. And sometimes our beekeepers look out and go, I didn't buy bees. I don't know where to get them. Oh, wait, call this person. They have bees and they'll give them to you. So pass it on, pay it forward. Make a split just because you don't want it to swarm. In your situation in the city, you don't want that to happen. And give the bees away. What do you care, right? As long as you're maintaining a colony of small to medium size and your mission accomplished, that's okay. So.
And then you hope on the reciprocal if your hive or one of your hives doesn't survive the winter that they might give them back.
Yeah. This is the thing, and I said this before, and I believe in it so strongly. Make a friend in beekeeping. I have a huge community. My one friend had heart surgery, Bob, that comes in here, and he doesn't have any bees this year. I have bees out of my ears. And when I make my splits, because I got to cull the herd, I'm going to give bees back to Bob. There's been years where I've been on the other side of that spectrum, and he's given bees to me. My twin just bought 4 new hive setups, and he wants new bees. I have plenty. I'm going to pay it forward. And I've physically driven swarms that I've captured and other things over to people in our community who I mentor or call and whatever and say, okay, here you go. It's funny because I went to go see somebody not too long ago, the end of last season, and I started going through the boxes and I saw my frames. And I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot. I gave you a hive a couple years ago because they have my markings on them. So my stuff's all over the county. It's kind of funny that way. It
Thank
just
you.
happens. Sure. I don't know who I missed. I don't know who the phone number is.
I didn't get
713.
a chance to go yet.
Who's that, Jessica?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Jessica.
Okay. So I've got two hives, and then have been at polar ends of the spectrum continuously. So one of them in the fall was very big and healthy. And then I think that they stayed too active and then basically ate through like all of their stores. And then now they're in like a shrinkage time period. And then I actually took out the bottom deep because they were not occupying that anymore. And then the queen hasn't quite kicked in yet.
Okay.
And then I also gave them some resource frames from the bigger hive, and also gave them like extra food, liquid feed, still doing the Hive Alive fondant, some donations from the other hive of like nectar and
When you
pollen
say
and
they're
honey.
small, how small are they?
Uh, well,
One
they
frame, two frame, five frames?
Oh, so I have 8 frame deeps. So
Yeah.
they are kind of like 5-ish
Yeah,
seams
that's
of
okay.
seed.
That's not a terrible colony coming out of
Uh-huh.
winter size
Yeah.
wise. That's not.
Yeah.
And you'll be surprised. Let me say this to you. I have a 6 frame nuke sitting out in the yard.
Hmm.
How many bees come off of a single double-sided frame
Hmm.
when it's
Is
capped?
Is it like 3,000 on each side or
Yeah.
something like that?
So you're going to go up 3,000. What
Hmm.
a typical colony coming out of winter is anywhere between 20 and 30,000. If
Hmm.
you have 4 frames of drawn comb, that's 12,000 bees. They're going to go up by 1/4 in one rotation.
Hmm.
They're going to grow pretty quickly. If you feed them, you're going to stimulate the queen to go even faster. And you be careful what you ask for.
Uh-huh.
Feeding them that much. That
Uh-huh.
may go berserk and grow. So it might just be like we talked about that they're not there yet. What you want to be perspective wise is, are they so small that they're runty?
Hmm.
And I would say if you had 2 frames of bees, which I have in one of my colonies, that one I'd prop up. But if they're 5 frames, that's not bad. Think about you put a 5 frame nuke in a brand new colony with foundation, how quickly they build. You have
Hmm.
drawn comb in your entire colony, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, with
Yeah.
that amount of food, boy, you're gonna get there pretty quickly, I think.
Uh-huh. Well, it got cold, so I took the feeder out, and then I gave
Yeah.
them, the
I would
cap
be careful
frame.
feeding liquid.
Hmm.
Next week I think we're probably going to enter into it'll be okay. They can keep it
Yeah.
when they're big enough.
Uh-huh.
Prior to that, I would be a little cautious. I would feed them a little bit,
Hmm.
like a quart, but I wouldn't be filling an internal feeder to the top and saying, have at it.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I'm like, closely monitoring, how much they're taking and how much the activity is like
Yeah.
building up or not. And actually you were talking about if brood has been dropped down. So one of the inspections I saw a little bit of eggs, and then like a week later that amount of larvae had like hatched, and then they had discarded it
Yeah.
on the, bottom board.
Yeah,
So I
they
think
don't have
they're
enough
kind of
bees to
like
cover what they're
waiting.
building. And if you
Uh-huh.
stimulate them and they go crazy and they have a build spurt and then it gets cold like
Uh-huh.
yesterday, they'll retract and you'll lose some.
Yeah.
But I'd be interested to ask you to look for. They build covering,
Mm-hmm.
capped, and they make it this big. Then they retract, and then they build it back. you'll pull up a frame and you'll see one color from a generation, and
Uh-huh.
around it will be a ring of another color.
Yeah.
That's the telltale sign, everybody, that you've had some sort of retraction,
Ah.
because they'll build bees around it and they'll cap that with a different generation of capping
Mhm.
wax. In the beginning of the season, they used a lot of recycled wax, things they find laying on the bottom board or whatever. But
Mhm.
as the season goes on and they have new bees that build wax, you'll see a lighter colored wax. And a
Mm.
telltale sign of one of those contractions is when you see different color of wax on the same capping.
Uh-huh.
So I'm curious what you described, if you'll get to see that.
Yeah.
Not very common, but I've seen it enough over a number of seasons.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. So hopefully, yeah, that the once the weather levels out more, then the queen can be more consistent.
Yeah.
And then they can go back to that, having the second box. But there was literally like less and less bees in the bottom box. And so then, there's like not enough of them to patrol the area, to monitor the area. So then I just decided it's better to like keep them tighter together for say week,
It's
2
not a
weeks.
bad move. If a colony is smaller, you consolidate it and give them
Mhm.
space to occupy the amount of space they need for the job. But
Mhm.
do keep an eye on, this is my thought process. I was in this kind of similar struggle with you on a couple of my colonies. When will we get to the green light?
Mhm.
I saw the forsythia. We've been through crocus and all that stuff. I've seen pollen coming through. I see them building brood.
Mhm.
When is safe?
Yeah.
Safe to me is when I see the cherry trees bloom and I
Mm.
see that warm weather steadiness ahead. I don't care what your colony state is. When we get to next week and we see 70-degree days for a run of like 7 or 8 days with
Mhm.
a high of 45 or higher at night, even the smallest colony is going to get through. I have
Mhm.
a Ware box that came through with 2 frames of bees. In the
Wow.
Ware box, which is this big, if you've ever
Uh-huh.
seen one, they filled out the first box already.
Uh-huh. Oh, okay.
And they're building comb, which
Uh-huh.
is astonishing. This little mighty colony is just crazy,
Yeah.
right? If
Yeah.
that colony's getting through, everybody
Mhm.
else is going to make it at
Mhm.
this stage. You're
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
Okay. And then my other colony's like been off to the races and they're going to be my first split.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if anybody finds themselves in a situation where you get this box and you don't know what to do with it and it's just booming, and you look over there and that one's not so much, on the first warm day, you could pull a frame or two, brood out, make sure you don't take the queen, and put it in
Mhm.
that one and help it out.
Yeah.
That's doable. A lot of people
Mhm.
don't exercise the right to equalize, but you can do that.
Yeah.
Nurse bees are loyal to the brood. If
Mm.
you take the frame out and it's covered with nurse bees and you put it in this colony, one, because it's brood, it's
Mhm.
future, they love it, and two, because it's nurse bees, non-confrontational, they'll accept that with no problem.
Mhm.
So if you want to try and prevent swarming and one colony is booming and one is not, that's another way to kind of
Mm.
slow it down a little.
Yeah. I gave them a drone frame too to give them a job to do. Like one of the green drone frames for
Yes,
the
yeah.
big colony. Yeah.
Now's the time. Now's
Yeah.
the time to stick those in if you're going to
Yeah.
do drone brood culling.
Yeah.
Um, that's a great question, Sheila. You have drones walking around. Can you split next week? I'm asking the same question. I'm not asking can I, I'm asking do I need to? And
Mhm.
the answer is maybe. I think it's still at least where we are a little too early, but I have yet to be through some of my bigger colonies. So
Mm.
uh,
Yeah.
you kind of have to read the frame. If the frame is all that it can be, it has a full complement of cap brood. It has a full ring of food all the way around. If there's food stacked in the corners and you're seeing that frame after frame after frame, the season is going full blown. And if you want to make a split, when you see that, you're good to go. That's my thought on that. Right now, my frames are dry in the corner. They actually haven't brought in as much nectar because it's still not in great abundance. And there are frames of brood in progress, but it's not the full face of the frame. It's like a third of it, with a nice pollen ring around the outside. Now I have pollen frames that are stacked and packed. Pollen in all the glory and abundance I could ever need right now. So they've really loaded that in. Oh, sorry, Eileen, I didn't get to you. You have any questions? I didn't see you there, so I didn't know if you were.
No, that's okay. I really don't have any questions.
Yeah.
I did jump the gun and I did a split this weekend, so we'll see how that goes.
Did you do your package? Were you getting a package?
Yes, I did get a package and I installed that May 29th.
And you're the one that we talked about the cork. Did you pull the cork?
I did. I pulled it on like the 4th or 5th day.
Okay.
The day I picked up the package was that really cold day. It was like 32 degrees.
Yeah, I
So
know it was cold that day.
Yeah, I didn't install it that day. I waited till the next when it got it to be like 50 degrees.
Yeah, good.
But yeah, they're doing
How
good.
did you hold the package overnight? Where did you put it?
I had it in a cardboard box, a
Uh-huh.
loose cardboard box, so there was air circulation. And I put a pillowcase. I kept the flaps open, but put a pillowcase over the top, and I kept it in my garage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I meant to talk to James Zidevsky and ask him what he did, because was he there? Did you see him?
I didn't see him now.
He bought like 50 packages. He bought a
Yeah,
whole.
Mark mentioned that. Mark mentioned that, and
Yeah.
he seemed to think that James was installing him that day, but I don't
Yeah,
know.
I think he was too. I'm gonna call him tomorrow. Okay. Yeah, that was interesting. So I followed up on that, and I think you knew the answer already. The Queen got put in that package the day before you picked it up. I confirmed that. Did you know that? Did they tell you?
Yeah, they told me it
Yeah,
was
they
on
said they
like
were going to tell
24
you.
hours or
So I
something.
asked them to. So
Yeah.
that's a first. I can't say I've ever heard. Usually what happens to everybody is when they make packages, they usually go through and make packages and they put a Queen in. And they sit in holding for days. And then they either load them on a trailer and or you come at the facility and pick them up. And the trailer ride, usually coming from South Carolina, Georgia, whatever, adds another day to it. But apparently this package load was put in a box one day and on the road the next day. So that's pretty unusual, actually. And they didn't have a lot of time to get acclimated with their Queen. So the instruction was leave the cork in and leave the Queen in with the mass of bees for a period of time when you install them, and then go in a couple days and pull the cork. First time I actually encountered that instruction. But it was a good learning lesson. Thank you, Eileen, for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, I think I've called on everybody with the phone number. I don't know who that is. And it's late. We usually try to wrap up by 9 o'clock, but we had the gift of gab. I wanted to just do last call. Anybody? I hope I didn't miss anyone. Phone number, are you there? 609-713-3347. Maybe they're on mute. I don't know. Okay. Well, if you look on the website, the meeting for next couple weeks is there. You should hopefully get a chance to go in your bees if you have them, or in the case of Mark, you're right on the doorstep of getting things going. And do come back next week with your questions, or a couple weeks from now. And thanks for an interesting session. There were a lot of interesting discussions tonight. Appreciate it. Thanks for supporting the program. Please tell your friends, come on in or go look at the lessons. I hope you all are actually watching the videos and going there and getting them. And I have a new round of a bunch of videos that I'm producing right now as we speak to put in to fill the rest of the second half of the program out. So should see them in the things, and I'll tell you about them when we get to the future meetings.
Kevin, I just rewatched your euthanizing the aggressive hive.
Yeah,
That was really something. That's a good one to watch.
that's a crazy video. Yeah, I still to this day, as I walk through the supermarket every once in a while, somebody stops like, you look familiar to me. Like, yeah, I know what you're gonna say. Oh, I watch you on YouTube. That was you. Yeah, I know. Yeah. So it's crazy. Last thing to say, Northwest, if you're a Northwester or you're within driving, meeting April 23rd, you can go to nwNJBA.com. Saturday, April 25th, we have a field meeting at Valley Crest Apiary. You can come work live bees with us. I'll be there. I have to take care of my own hives. We have another one in May. We're coming up. Come join us. We have a lot of fun.
Yeah, I have to tell you, that's how you got us started, because that we went to the April hands-on meeting. That was so much fun. So learned so much. Well
Yeah.
worth going.
Even if you've been doing it for a long time, coming
Yeah.
to that meeting and just seeing, James Zadevsky I was talking about, watch him work bees, watch Laura work bees, me and others. It's always interesting to watch somebody else. Oh, I see what they did. I've never done that. I'm going to try that. You learn so much looking over the shoulder, and we put you to work. We'll have you do the inspection and hold the frame and describe what's what. And it's such a great learning experience year after year. So come on out. NWNJBA.com is the website where you get the details. And if it's going to rain and something gets postponed, they'll tell you where. So, all right. You all get a gold star for having longevity tonight. Thanks for staying with me.
Thank you.
This meeting recording, as always, will go on the website where you found the meeting link if you went to the online. I'll do it in the next couple of days when I get a minute. And have a good night. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks,
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.